about the difference between actions and activities as far as curing things. And that difference is that when it's an action, people don't cure it. So the person has to be doing this as an activity in order to cure it. And there are ways of setting it up so that it becomes an activity. It stops being an action. For example, it's this. People think about looking at the hub in the morning, and if you turn that into an activity, like a lot of people get coffee in the morning, and it's not an action. It's just one of the activities. It's one of their daily activities that they do, where they eat breakfast or whatever. And if you turn looking at the hub into that, and you just, I think this has been one of Ross, our colleague in Italy, one of her strengths is that she turns her, doing immunics into an activity, and she just says, I just look at the hub, and before I go to bed, or I look at the hub when I wake up in the morning, and it's like part of her day. It's this. By the way, it's the same thing when people eat. Like for a lot of people, eating is an action. And, people will go to a restaurant and they'll agonize over what to order because they're trying to lose weight. And that they'll never lose weight because everything they eat is an action. They're doing an action instead of an activity. And activities are a context for manifesting. And everything you do where you actually accomplish something is a manifestation. It's it's the law of attraction. Like you're drawing this good thing to yourself. In the case of weight loss, you're drawing losing weight to yourself. Or in the case of cure, you're drawing, you're finding the things that you need and learning from them and then moving on. And when people are doing an action, they'll cure something and they'll decide it isn't enough. And they'll try to do, more, which is very different from being in the calm, clear place and saying, okay, I think I'll do another one in the middle of this good feeling, because these differences are very subtle. But as an action, these things, the person switches. The actions switch people. And when you're switched, the law of attraction keeps working. That's the problem with it. See, because the basic definition of switching is that you want the opposite of what you want. So, for example, if you want to lose weight and wanting to lose weight switches people because they start taking actions to lose weight. And so they start to want to gain weight and attract things that cause weight gain. One of those things, by the way, is stress. And a lot of choosing food is an action right there. And you want to avoid choosing food at all costs. One way that some of the people I've known, like some of the really skinny people I've known, like Shigeru at Sagami, my favorite restaurant in Philadelphia, one of the ways he did it, he used to say that anything you put in front of him, he would eat. He said, just put it there and I'll eat it, not a problem. It's the Japanese way. And if you notice, Japanese people are often skinny. You see very few fat Japanese people. Because, to them, eating is an activity, it's not an action. And in fact, a lot of Japanese people don't order their meals. Like they go sit down at a sushi bar and the chef feeds them. He decides what they're going to eat. So sushi chefs have to be very intuitive. And see, when I've been pretty good at eating the right things. And the reason is that what I do is I intuitively feel myself, and then and I do this when I'm far away from eating. I do not wait till lunchtime and try to figure out what I'm going to eat. When I'm still lying in bed in the morning, I do like eye massage, like this. You just massage the top and then the bottom, and I pull on my ears. These are a lot of acupuncture medians end in these places. So I'll just do this, and this massages the acupuncture medians. And it makes you alive. You come alive. So that's what I do. I kind of lay with my head down, but not on the bed, and so the blood goes into my eyes, and I do these things in the morning. And while I'm doing that, I look into the lunchtime. I often eat the same thing for lunch every day. And it will be like bell peppers, steak, kasha, sesame nut meal, and maybe a couple of other things, And I'll just see what feels to me, like this is hours before I'm going to eat, what feels right to me. So, see, this is not an action. Then at that point, eating becomes an activity, because what I do is I just go get the stuff. I don't really think about it anymore. I may decide whether to bring in several bell peppers or just two, because I might be cooking with some of them for dinner. And so I'm always creating my meals hours before I eat them, including cooking my dinner. Like my dinner is often a kind of a stew made with grains and nuts and vegetables like tomatoes and bell peppers, and I leave it in a crock pot, and when I come down, I just spoon it on. So it's an activity, and that's why while I'm eating, I can talk to people. So I've simply tried to convert everything I do into an activity, and stay away from taking actions. Again, these are subtle distinctions, because anything I describe to you, you could easily say, well, choosing whether you bring 6 bell peppers or 1 bell pepper in from the garage refrigerator is an action, and I don't know if I'd be able to argue with that, but it's actually it's in your orientation. So this is what causes people to cure or not cure their cancer. They, especially when people are in pain, they tend to like things pop into their head, like I've got to do this, or I need to do that, or I should do this other thing, or maybe this will work, and they're not using their intuition. They're contemplating actions to take, possible actions to take, and then they take some of them. And every time they take an action, they're putting another nail in their coffin. And finally, they die of their cancer or the other thing, at some point. Sometimes dying takes 20 years, and sometimes it only takes a few weeks. But death follows action, and life is about activities. So give that some thought. Give this a little thought.